pays the commission of a real estate agent? And what other closing costs are there when you're buying a home? Well, I'm going to give you the answer to both those two questions. I'm going to do it right now. Hi everybody, my name's Ty Eden. I'm with Exit Realty Redefined. Welcome to my YouTube channel, DuPage County Homes by Ty Eden, and I am Ty Eden. So today we're going to talk a little bit about who's paying the real estate commission, for the realtors. And that's both the buyer and the seller. So I'm going to give you a couple of those points right now. If you're the home buyer, guess what? You're off the hook most of the time. If it's more of a traditional type sale where you've got representing brokers on both sides, meaning a broker that represents the seller and a broker that represents the buyer, then yes, the buyer, you're off the hook of paying for the broker's fee. The seller usually is the one that's absorbing that cost. Now, there could be instances where the seller is going to turn around and make a buyer try and pick up some of that cost, but that's more of an exception to the rule. You see, a lot of nice things in real estate is there's a lot of stuff that's negotiable. How much is the realtor fee? Well, typically what everybody usually hears is 6%. But that's up to the brokerage house as to how much they want to accept on more of the minimal end. I mean, they're happy to take as much of a fee from the seller as you're willing to give up. I've heard fees anywhere upwards of north of 10%. But normally sellers are looking to have that fee come down as low as they can. I would say you can probably look at expecting a fee anywhere from 4% to 6%, depending on where you are in the United States, how hot your market is, and how hungry that real estate brokerage may be. Now, that fee Mr. Seller agrees on with the selling agent, that fee doesn't just go to the selling agent. That fee gets split up to four ways. So you cut it in half, the buying agent representative gets half, and the selling agent representative gets half. That broker that you're talking to probably splits half of his half with the house, let's call it, the sponsoring broker. On the buying side, that gets split up. So it's actually four ways. Costs that get deducted out of that expense that you're paying are costs to post the house on the internet, any kind of advertising, signs, open houses, giveaways that the agent is looking to give away as far as advertising and promoting your house, photography, aerial stuff, all the neat stuff that goes on out there to promote homes. That all gets deducted from that fee if the agent is successful in selling your house. What if I hire an agent, so he's signed up a seller and he brings a buyer? Now what happens? Well, if you as the homeowner elected to allow your agent to play a role called dual agency, then you're saying it's okay, which can be good and it can be bad. Now, there are some states in the United States where that is actually illegal. And those states are Florida, Colorado, and Kansas. And the reason why those three states elected to make dual agency illegal is they wanted to make sure it was very clear who the real estate agent, the real estate broker, was representing. You see, in dual agency, an agent really can't negotiate on your behalf because he represents the other side as well. So he can just really supervise the transaction and still enjoy the full benefit of the entire fee. So, as a seller, you might want to consider when asked, because in the state of Illinois, that listing agent has to ask the seller 2 times. Once when the listing contract is entered into, and then if the selling agent happens to bring a buyer, that agent has to come back to the seller and reconfirm that the seller is okay with the agent playing dual agency. Very superficial information can be exchanged between that agent and the buyer and the seller. Just pretty much verification of stated facts. Sales price, how long to close, things of that nature. Nothing, no inside information about what do you think the other side's willing to offer? What do you think the other side's willing to pay? None of that stuff can go on in dual agency. So, sellers, be cautious when you run across something like that. And buyers, be educated. Make sure you know that that agent that you're dealing with doesn't also represent the seller. Now, I said at the beginning of this video that the real estate brokers expense is absorbed by the seller in most cases. But buyers, you're not off the hook, because there are other expenses that you have to pick up, and you do this at the closing table when you're ready to settle and your bank is funding the loan. And some of those expenses are loan processing fee. For the loan you're borrowing the money from, they're going to charge you a loan processing fee, and they're going to take it away or add it to the loan that you're borrowing. Title company fees. The title company issues an insurance policy to ensure the passage of title between the seller and the buyer. Survey costs. If a survey is required, which you probably want to make sure that you understand what the borders of that property are that you're buying. So I'd pay for a survey. Recording of the real estate deed. You want to make sure that your property in your name. So get that deed recorded and in your name. But buyers, you're going to pick up the cost. Insurance. So as a homeowner, all home insurance policies are prepaid. So you're paying upfront for the coming year. So that's going to be a cost that Mr. Buyer or Mrs. Buyer or Miss Buyer are going to end up incurring. Here in the state of Illinois, we have what's called transfer stamps. Transfer stamps, that's something that the buyer is going to incur the cost of. Any property taxes that may be due from the point that you're buying the property going forward. Here in Illinois, we pay for last year's this year. Other states, you pay as you go, so it's you're paying ahead of time. Homeowners association fees, again, that's a whole prepay. Now your real estate closing costs are going to vary between 2% and 7%. Typically you're going to see real estate closing costs average around 3 to 3.5% as a general rule of thumb. So the buyers, you want to be able to budget for that, but here's the thing. When you're interacting and talking with your real estate agent as a buyer, he might be able to give you some sort of a fact sheet that can give you kind of real roundabout numbers of what you may be looking at as far as costs are concerned when you close on the property. So the title company within 24 to 48 hours will issue a good faith estimate as to what your potential costs are going to be, and there's going to be pretty close. Now, Mr. Buyer, if you're like a little upside down and you can't quite incur all the costs for closing, sometimes sellers will entertain the idea of giving a credit back to the buyer for some of those costs. Not always. Sometimes, depends on how motivated the seller is and how hard you are able to successfully negotiate, Mr. Buyer, or your good real estate agent can negotiate for you. Other things you might be able to negotiate is going to be your attorney fees, commission rates, again, real estate commission, recording costs, and messenger fees. The cost of moving all this paperwork around, which nowadays isn't so bad because a lot of it's done electronically. So whether you're buying or selling, that sales price isn't the only number that you need to be conscious of. You need to also be conscious of all the other costs that go into it. And so buyer and seller need to both be educated on what to expect. So that's all I've got for you today. I hope you're able to get something out of it. Again, my name is Ty Eden, DuPage County Homes by Ty Eden, engaged by Exit Realty Redefined in Wheaton, Illinois. Keep checking in with my channel. We put out videos very frequently. Subscribe over here, and we'll have some interesting stuff on things to do out here in DuPage County, as well as some of this information that I'm sharing with you as far as real estate information and tips. With that, goodbye. Oh, that went pretty well. But please subscribe.